What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Breakdown Sportscast. I'm your good friend and host, Kory Willis. Hope everyone is doing well on a Monday. Hope you guys got a chance to watch a lot of good football over the weekend, both in college and the NFL. We had some pretty good games, some great developments, and I think some pretty good dialogue for everyone that's a college football fan, especially throughout the country. So overall, I hope everyone enjoyed their weekend out there. As always, guys, you know where to find us. We're on multiple streaming platforms out there, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Amazon Music, and Amazon Audible, iHeartRadio, and many other streaming platforms out there. So, as always, guys, we appreciate you all listening into the show. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to the show. It definitely helps us know what we're doing and how we can improve the show for the future for you all. So, as always, we very much appreciate you guys' support. As always, you know who I'm with. I am with my good friend and co-host. He is Chris Bolton. Chris, what's going on, my brother?
Nothing much, man. Feeling good. We want to wish my good co-host first and foremost before we dive into anything. Happy birthday! You guys are hearing this on Monday, so he's probably just finishing up celebrating. So, want to wish you a happy birthday, brother. And but no, everything is good here. We Another great weekend of college football is in the books. It wasn't too many shakeups, but at the top we did have a few things go down, and so I think the biggest takeaway is this thing is wide open. This is '07 is unraveling before our eyes, Kory.
Yeah, I know, man. I appreciate the birthday wishes and everything. But overall, man, yeah, this was an interesting week. I think you're absolutely spot on, Chris. At the top, it's kind of slowly but surely unraveling before our eyes. We're seeing teams that we thought going throughout the season, this team looks unstoppable. How are we gonna, see anybody take on a team like Texas or whoever, But overall, we're starting to find out a lot more about a lot of these teams as we're hitting to the month of November, which is the month where the college football playoff committee gets together to really showcase who is in that top 12, who's worthy for that in that top 12 spot. That's we're getting closer and closer to that, and I think we got one step closer to figuring out who's definitely going to be placed in that category once November comes.
Yeah, no, we definitely we definitely have, and this will be I feel like it's going to be such an interesting college football playoff, because maybe this year more than any other in the past, I think all 12 teams will have a shot. I mean, it's not looking like there's too much of a gap between anybody at this point with everything that's kind of happening. I mean, we're going to get into the Georgia-Texas game, but even Georgia's win, they didn't just look great either on the way to victory. It's a lot to get into, but I feel like this is a pretty balanced year, which will make for some good TV once the college football playoffs do start.
No, you're absolutely right, brother. I mean, as we start to wind down throughout the rest of the season. I mean, we're figuring out who are the contenders and who are the pretenders in the world of college football. And, it is going to really create some good television when you have, teams that maybe we weren't thinking about, trying to make their way into this thing. I mean, I look at a team that, like Boise State. Now, I won't say a team like Boise State has no shot because of that one group of 5 spot that is available in the 12-team playoff. But, a team like that, and with a guy like Ashton Gianti, running wild over everyone, it's and just the way the season's been played out so far, anybody can beat anybody. I think we're learning that now in real time, Chris. So
lesson learned.
Yeah,
we gotta learn it anymore.
Right. I think Vandy, gave us the blueprint. I think Vandy taught us, good and well that anybody can get beat. I'm not trying to, reference Bart Scott on the show, but just saying. I think that quote is starting to turn into a reality when it comes to college football, Chris.
It is. It definitely is. And the high marquee matchup of the weekend continues to resonate that statement and is evidence even more of so.
Yeah, yes, sir, it does. And I think we can go ahead and get into it because it was the premier matchup of the weekend, Chris, where the Georgia Bulldogs, number 5 Georgia, came into DKR in Austin, Texas, Chris, put a beat down on the Longhorns. 30-15 was your final score in this ball game. I know you probably heard the comments from Kirby Smart after the game, Chris.
Oh, yeah.
He was calling out ESPN. He was calling out everybody. I felt it coming. I don't know what it was. I felt it coming. and yeah, man, it's Kirby Smart being Kirby Smart, when it comes down to, a big game of this magnitude. Where, he was energetic, of course, after the victory. And look, hats off to Georgia. I mean, these guys, they were balling. They did everything that they could to stop Texas in this ball game. And, they got the win overall. So, Georgia's now sitting nicely at 6-1 for the season. And, now they have their sights set to finish strong for the rest of the year. But overall, I'd say for Texas, they got they got the loss out the way now. They pretty much have everything still in front of them. They just got to win out, and hopefully they don't get caught up into anything with like a Vanderbilt, because they still have a team like Vanderbilt on their schedule. So we'll see what happens with that. But overall, Chris, I'm eager to get your thoughts about the game. What did you think about this performance from Georgia? Because I can't deny that Kirby did hear a lot of the noise, and there were a lot of people, including me. I'm not gonna be honest. I'm not gonna lie to myself and say that maybe I had my doubts on the Bulldogs.
This was prime Kirby, man. This is the kind of performance that you expect from a guy who prides himself on defense. The kind of defensive performance from a 2-time championship winning coach. Everything came together, and when Georgia's back in the world's eyes was against the wall because of the performances they've had this season leading up to this matchup, and you're going on the road to play the number 1 team in the nation. You were put in a spot where you either barbecue or mildew, and they had that grill out, charcoals, everything. It was a barbecue in Austin. Just a spectacular defensive game from the Bulldogs. From the very beginning, it looked like Georgia was the home team, Kory. Texas offense was flustered. You would have thought they were at Sanford Stadium.
Yeah, this was scary. I was like, man, is this game in Austin or this game is in Athens? Because I don't know right now. I can't tell you. And we all know about how the way the Georgia Bulldog faithful travel on the road. These
Hmm.
people travel. I mean, they the real MVPs out there in
Yeah,
Athens.
yeah.
So,
Now, Georgia fans, they are ride or die, and they were in full force in Austin.
yeah.
And it was it was something to see because honestly, this is not that wasn't the Quinn Ewers that I saw play Michigan. I don't know if he's still injured. He was rusty last week in his return game against Oklahoma, and he continues to look rusty. Something needs to be figured out here soon because if he keeps playing like this,
Mm-hmm.
Texas is very vulnerable. Very vulnerable if the quarterback play can't improve.
Yeah. Yeah, I was. I know you were watching the broadcast in real time, just like me, Chris, and for ESPN to come on, Book McFarlane and the crew was like, they gotta take out Quinn. I'm like, oh, this is like spiraling out of control right now. Like, imagine you being in the stadium and you didn't hear that. But imagine you being at home and you heard that and you're a UT fan. You like, excuse me? Like, I'm not saying that it ain't the wrong thing to do. I'm just saying what is going on right now of a game this magnitude.
And it did reach that point. I mean, Sark was he was trying all the tricks. Arch went in, and then he went from Arch to Quinn again. I mean, it wasn't that he was just done with Quinn. He was just literally trying to find a spark. Like, can we figure something out to get the offense going? Because the offense was inept. Um, it took the crowd throwing bottles, it seems like, for Texas to get something going in their favor because a holding call was changed after the referee after some time and the bottles were thrown by the crowd for the referees to get together and be like, hey, fellas, I think we might have messed up with this call, with this penalty we called, and next thing you know they end up changing the call. But um very impressed with Georgia's defense. That's my main takeaway. The offense leaves a lot to be desired.
I think
The offense did
you're
not
absolutely
show up,
right.
but the defense was championship level.
Yeah, yeah. Nah, I'm sitting here looking at Carson Beck's stats, Chris. I mean, 23 for 41, 175 yards, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions thrown in that ball game.
If you told me that before the game, I was like, "Oh, Texas won by 20 plus." If you said that was going to be his stat line, I'm like, "Texas got this in the bag."
You're right.
3 interceptions on the road, less than 200 passing yards. Oh, it's a blowout.
Yeah. Insane. Yeah. I mean, it just goes to show you how good of a defense this Georgia Bulldogs D is. Like when they rise to the occasion off of big games like this, boy, do they ever do it. So, I mean, and it's scary because if you're Carson Beck, you don't have to do anything.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And this this Georgia team, if they could ever find something, if they could get something going on offense, maybe they do have the highest ceiling of all the teams in the nation with the way their defense is playing. If the offense could even just be good, because that was a below average performance. That wasn't even an average performance
Mm-hmm.
by Georgia's offense. That was below average. That was C minus, D plus offensive football. But that was highest degree, A plus plus, a 99.9 that you could expect from a defense. And so if that defense is playing like that, if the offense could ever just get to a B level, Georgia's going to be really tough to beat.
Yeah.
But can it? Because we haven't seen it. The only time we saw it was in desperation mode against the Alabama secondary that we have continued to find out, Corey, ain't that good.
Man, that good. No, you're right, man. You are right. It's weird. It's such a weird season that we're in, where we're seeing a team like Georgia be as dominant as they can be on defense, Chris, but offensively they don't need to score many points offensively to still win ball games. Like, that's where we're in right now. What a wild season we're in, but
It is a wild world, and this is in 2024 football.
Yeah,
this is the age of the offenses in college football, and yet leave it to Georgia to still find ways to win games the ugly way.
Yep. I agree, man. I agree. So, yeah, man. Big win for Georgia. Overall, it's still they still have to, win out. Of course, yeah. I mean, we always talk about lately. I guess the national media is, can two lost teams, still find their way in the playoff hunt? I mean, there's a possibility, but so far, they're 6-1. We'll see what the rest of the season goes for them. They still have to play like Ole Miss, teams like that. So we'll see what happens with Georgia. But for Texas, everything is still in front of them as well. So they do have to go on the road to face a feisty Vanderbilt team with Pavia and company. So that'll be interesting to see. If Texas has anything in them to kind of will themselves into a victory, to try to keep the good times rolling in a season that is that they're trying to really win a national championship off of. So still a lot of football left to be played, Chris.
Yeah, for sure. A whole lot of football left, but it's going to be a wild fall. It's just the SEC has proven itself from top to bottom. Hey, man, you just never know. You never know. It could be some crazy stuff, some outcomes you don't anticipate happening. So yeah, we're gonna see. Texas has a little chink in the armor. So but I expect them to bounce back. But like we've already said, November, it's gonna be a crazy month.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So, yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting, man. It's gonna be interesting.
It's hard to make predictions.
See.
You don't know how to call it, just with how things are playing out week to week.
No, you don't. Yeah, like we don't know who are the true contenders and pretenders are in this league alone.
Some pretenders that make the playoffs.
Yeah,
like everybody that's in the playoff ain't necessarily gonna be a contender, and I don't know. It's that first round. Whoever is a home team, that might be the difference for some of these games too. That's going to be another added crazy element to the equation, Kory.
No, you're right. You're right. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens throughout the rest of the season, and I can't wait. I think this is this is why you play the games in a 12-team playoff format now. This is all more reason why you play the game. So it's just when you lose one game, potentially two, we'll see how everything plays out. You still have an opportunity to knock somebody off, or have yourself go get booted off the mountain. So it's the reason why we play the game, man.
You're right. You're exactly right, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, Chris, anything else you want to add to this game before we move on to the next big game of the SEC over the weekend?
No, sir. We can keep it rolling.
All right. Well, folks, we are now about to head to Knoxville, Tennessee, where the third Saturday in October occurred between the Tennessee Volunteers and the Alabama Crimson Tide. This game, Chris, me and you were kind of discussing all week on, who had the upper edge over who, who could, control this ball game more. And overall, it started out pretty slow. I'd say in the first half of the game,
Really slow.
it really slow, really slow, slow as molasses. But by the second half, it did pick up finally. So, overall, Tennessee defeated the Crimson Tide 24-17 was the final score of this ball game. And Tennessee is now sitting nicely at 6-1, 3-1 in conference play, and the Alabama Crimson Tide, Chris, 5-2. This is the first time that they have lost more than one game in the regular season since 2007. That was during the Sylvester Croom days.
Hey, I want to say that was Saban's first year at Alabama.
It was.
Yeah, he clearly. Old Saint Nick ain't on that sideline anymore, brother.
Yeah, I saw your text, brother, when you had sent me, and man, I'm talking about some self reflection with myself. I'm sitting there looking at the at the Georgia Texas game, and I still just couldn't get out of my mind. I'm like, man, Nick Saban just ain't right.
Oh boy!
Oh my gosh! But yeah, man, this is where we're at right now, Chris. So it's Alabama has now lost 2 games in the regular season, and a lot of the fan base is not enthused. I've been listening to some people from around the T-Town area, Chris, and man, I have to say they are not happy about this football team this season. So I want to get your thoughts, Chris, on just this game, but overall, what are your thoughts about Alabama at this point and the future of this Alabama program going forward?
Man, starting with this game, I mean, Alabama really should have. They lost this game in the first half, in my opinion, by not taking full advantage of the miscues and the turnovers that Tennessee had. You got to put points on the board. You're on the road. Tennessee had 3 turnovers at half, if I'm not mistaken, Kory. 3 turnovers? You got to capitalize. You got to jump on Tennessee and be up double digits. And you need to be up at least a couple TDs, really 3 TDs. You need to make them pay for every turnover that you get from them. Alabama did not do so. Yes, they were up, but you need to be pummeling this team. It needs to be as quiet as it can possibly be with 100,000 plus screaming fans in Neyland Stadium as they are watching this game. And when you don't take advantage like you should have, and you end the game with 17 points, 17, Kory, that's not going to cut it. It's not going. It's not enough. And so, especially with a team like Tennessee that can wake up, and they did in the second half. You were only up 7-0 at halftime. That's not it. It looked like the game plan was to drop back and Jalen Milroe just look at Ryan Williams. I don't know how many targets he had this game, but that's the only man that it looked like Jalen Milroe knew was on the field. You got to scheme some of these other guys open. You got to get Kendrick Law the ball. You got to continue to find ways to get Jam Miller and other guys, opportunities in space. You got to get Justice Haynes the ball. It's it's really disappointing to kind of see just how feast or famine this Alabama offense is, and that was on full display in this game. And that's why that's been the story of this season. We talked about this team is consistently inconsistent. It's not just that it permeates in everything with this team. This offense, if they're not getting long bombs, then they're finishing the drives with 3-and-outs. If they're not getting interceptions, like making a play or get a huge play, they're giving up a huge play. It's like there's no middle ground with this team, and so it's just made for a stressful season for Alabama fans. And honestly, Kory, this team is fortunate to be 5-2. They very well could be on a 3-game losing streak. They should have lost to South Carolina. South Florida exposed them. It could have very well lost to Georgia. This could be a disastrous season right now. They are fortunate to be in the position they're in, and they have time to get some things cleaned up. But with all the noise and chatter going on in T-Town, I'm sure it feels like the sky is falling there, and we're really about to have the mental fortitude of this team tested. Because it's one thing when you lose. It's another when you lose and you play football for the University of Alabama. Because it's different there. It's like in basketball, there's losing and then there's losing at Kentucky. And when you're losing at Kentucky, it's like the world is burning because that's what you don't do in basketball is lose at Kentucky.
Right.
Same thing in football for Alabama.
Yeah, no, man, you're absolutely right, Chris. I'm just sitting here looking at these stats right now, and I'm just kind of mind boggled at a little bit of this. So, the time of possession, Alabama controlled the time of possession over Tennessee. They had 33. Mm-hmm. They were at 33-15 compared to Tennessee's 26-45.
Mm-hmm.
So you control this game over 33 minutes over Tennessee. That means you had the ball, you had opportunities to make plays and still couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. That's alarming. The 2 interceptions that Jalen Milroe threw, I know one of them was kind of like it was a little, animated, but overall, man, you got to hold on to the ball. You got to find ways to get people open. You got to find people open. You got to protect the football overall, and you just couldn't do that. On top of all of these issues that Bama faces. So, a little bit of this, Chris. I just feel like, I know you said they have time to clean it up. I think with any team, they can find ways to win games, through this final stretch. But a little bit of it is to me is, once you're in the midway of the season, you kind of are what you are.
This is who Alabama is.
This is who Alabama is, and it's like, I don't know, man. Like we were saying that earlier in the season, where that the South Florida game, we were like, it looks off, but we'll see what this team is made of, down the line, and we kept seeing these mistakes.
They've been exposed. You're right. This is Alabama.
Yeah.
This is Alabama. If they go not, they would be fortunate to go 9-3, Kory.
Yeah.
I think that is best case scenario. I see another loss. Whether it's to LSU, whether it's to Missouri, I see another loss in the future for this team. Could be a couple more.
Yeah. I know. I mean, they got a game against Missouri This coming Saturday, I mean, I'm not too high on Missouri like we were earlier in the season. Now, I mean, they barely beat Auburn over the weekend. So, but against Alabama, you never know. At this point, it's just kind of Alabama's kind of like a mixed bag, sitting at 5-2 right now, and that's saying something.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. They're fortunate the latter half of the schedule is what it is. Oklahoma looks like an inept, terrible football team, and quite possibly it's the worst team in the SEC at this point. And that's saying something because Auburn's pretty stinky too. So we'll see how these next 2 weeks are going to make or break Alabama's season.
Yeah,
Missouri and LSU. This is the season right here, Kory. We're about to learn everything we need to know about Alabama these next 2 weekends.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, man. And this is it's gonna be interesting to see what this team is really made of throughout the rest of these weeks. Because, yeah, man, I you gotta go to Baton Rouge. The way you've been playing, can you survive that? Can you even survive the Missouri game?
Can you survive Missouri?
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't been the best thing, but Missouri's a solid team. They mess around and get a lead on you. That place, you might hear some boo birds in Tuscaloosa. Missouri jumps ahead of them.
Yeah. Oh man, imagine that. That sounds terrible, but if you're an Alabama fan, you're not surprised. I know you wouldn't be surprised, if you're in the stadium, seeing what you've seen the past several weeks. So, yeah, man, Alabama has a lot to work on, and if they even want to sniff the playoffs at this point, so. We'll see what happens with them going forward, Chris. But for Tennessee, I guess you got a little bit of life left in you throughout the rest of the season so far.
Yeah, Tennessee's an interesting team. Their defense is the real deal. They had Jalen Milroe just flustered from beginning to end. The offense, if Nico Iamaleava can be able to complete downfield passes, just put a little more air under the football. You don't necessarily have to throw the perfect ball. So a little more air under the ball that your receivers get run under it. Tennessee could be putting up those numbers. They're leaving so many points on the field, Kory. Like, this is truly a matter of, if they can just execute. Tennessee is a sleeper to win the national championship because the defense is there.
Yeah.
But they also can lose. They look at the rest of the schedule. Kentucky is they're in shambles. But
oh yeah, they're in shambles.
They're in shambles. But as soon as you think Kentucky's dead, they find life. Ask Ole Miss.
They know all about it.
Exactly. Then you go to Georgia, and you go to Vandy. It ain't easy closing out the year. And you got Mississippi State, who's playing some really good football and runs a similar system to what you run. And the way they are running it looks a lot better than how you've been running it for the last 3 weeks.
So keep that in mind, Mississippi State fans. Once that game comes, there's still a lot left to be played for. I'm just saying, Arkansas doesn't look too much of a threat.
So yeah. boy. So it's going to be. I'm curious to see how Tennessee closes the season because just as much as they can be a contender, the wheels could fall off too potentially with some of the matchups that they have left on the plate.
Yeah, you're right. You are right. So, yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting to see what's in store for both of these teams. I think both of these teams, they aren't flawless. Just kind of like you had described, but I think we're gonna really see what a lot of these teams are made of.
Yeah, oh for sure, we definitely are. So yeah, it's going to be quite the finish to the season, brother.
Yes, sir. It is. It is. So yeah, man. Anything else you want to add to this game before we move on?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. Well, now, Chris, I think we're going to move on to the game in Louisville, Kentucky, where Louisville Cardinals hosted number 6 Miami. The Hurricanes came to town over the weekend in a game that me and you were kind of going back and forth on who would be the most consistent between the two, and really that kind of came down to just what Miami's been showing us the last several weeks of their inconsistencies, while still being undefeated up to this game. We were wondering if they had fixed a lot of those inconsistencies. Overall, they won the game 52-45 over the Cardinals. They're now 7-0, one of the lone undefeated teams in college football right now. But yeah, I think Miami did fix a couple of things, but I think overall, you know what? I'm gonna scratch that. They didn't do anything.
Miami is something else, Kory.
They are.
They are quite the team. We talked about in our preview show and how I said, I just feel like this team gets bored. They've been bored. And this game was going to get them hyped. Mm-hmm. And it did. They were clicking. They were rolling. And as they were putting the beat down to Louisville, they got bored in the middle of the game. and let Louisville off the hook, and in a matter of 2 minutes, the game was tied. We went from Miami being up 2 touchdowns to in 2 minutes, you go in the kitchen, get you some chips and dip, find you a soda pop out the fridge, get back to your seat on the couch, and next thing you know, what happened? They was just up 2 touchdowns. It's tied? Yes, it is. That this Miami team is an enigma. They are just, it's crazy. They play some great football, and then in just a matter of moments, everything that they did just goes flushed down the drain. You just don't know what you're going to get from these guys.
No,
even in the middle of the game, you don't.
No. I had watched pretty much from the third quarter to the end of the game, and man, you talk about you letting Louisville run, kick returns back. I mean, this is just ridiculous. And we thought that the bye week would give them some sort of a chance to kind of sit back, Chris, and figure out what the deficiencies were on this team and how they could, kind of tighten up on some things. I'm starting. I really believe what you've been saying the last several weeks, Chris, where this team's just bored. I mean, if we were to put Georgia and Miami on, on opposite sides of the field, I think that would make them not be bored, because I think they are very much looking ahead to the playoffs at this point, because they've been waiting, they've been salivating to play some higher competition, I should say. And look, maybe they'll really not be bored once they play a team like Clemson. Maybe they'll wait until the playoffs. But man, they really are showcasing that they are bored while still being an unbelievable football team at 7-0 now. So, I don't know what to say, Chris. But hey, hats off to Mario Cristobal. Hats off to Cam Ward. Still in that contention to win that Heisman. I think he's front row and center. He is going to need someone like a Ashton Gianti or Travis Hunter to just rip that Heisman trophy right out of his hands. But I think he definitely put some more tape to his resume to showcase the Heisman committee.
Yeah, it's really something to see with Miami. I feel like they're playing a dangerous game because if you're waiting for the ACC championship to be able to play Clemson or SMU to really lock in, eventually you might hit a point where you can't flip that switch. And so I would really love for them to just be a dominant team, just flex your muscle to close the year. But they're also so talented that maybe they will be able to turn it on. Their highs, their ceiling is a team that can win a national championship in the season like this year, where it's so wide open.
Yeah,
It's going to be a movie. I really don't know how to call it, how this thing is going to play out, because Miami can very well be your national champion. I know it sounds so crazy with how the games they've been putting on and just how they've been escaping with narrow victories. But this could be your national champion that we're looking at, Kory.
It very well could be. And it's so hilarious to think about that because of just like the close game against Cal at Cal. The almost debacle inner touchdownception, I guess you can call against Virginia Tech this game. So and I'm sure there's gonna be many others throughout the rest of the season. Yeah, man, it's just been a smorgasbord of just near losses, I guess you could say. So yeah, man, I'm with you 1,000%. This is a Miami team that's bored, probably looking ahead, and I think overall they figure out a way to escape through these narrow losses by the hair on the chinny chin. And I think it's made for good television.
It sure has. It sure has. You are right about that. Unless you're a Miami Hurricanes fan, it is made for great television. If you're a Miami fan, you don't even want to watch the games anymore. You just let me know if we won or lost. Because if you sit back and watch how they win the game, it'll drive you insane.
Oh man! I was just seeing the medication on the table of some of these Miami fans is probably just insane. Oh man, but yeah, man. We'll see what happens with the Hurricanes going forward. Let's see what they have left on the schedule. So yeah, I mean you got Florida State should be a victory. Duke at Georgia Tech. I mean that'll be a little bit of a trap game. The at Georgia Tech game. Wake Forest at Syracuse. I mean, I gotta say, at Georgia Tech, at Syracuse, maybe against Duke. Those are games that we need to look out for if you're a Miami fan out there right now. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But overall, Chris, anything else you want to add to this game before we move on?
No, sir. Yeah, we have said enough about those wild hurricanes
Yes.
out there in Miami.
Yes, we have indeed. Well, now, Chris, we're going to head to the third premier SEC game over the weekend. A game that we thought that was going to be a lot more competitive. We'll touch on it briefly, but Arkansas hosted number 8 LSU in a game that we thought Arkansas they were starting to kind of catch up to
Mm-hmm.
speed with some things that looked like they were going to, kind of break out in this game. Did not happen. LSU defeated Arkansas 34-10. LSU is now 6-1 on the season, and Arkansas is now 4-3 on the season as well. LSU's 3-0 in conference play, Chris. So overall, Brian Kelly has figured out a way to get the best out of this team. I mean, he squeezed that lemon dry on this team to
Mm-hmm.
get the most
Mm-hmm.
out of these Tigers, and now they're sitting well at 6-1 right now. So, what are your thoughts about the job that Brian Kelly has, done to get this team where they're at right now, with an opportunity, kind of, I mean, they're not on the outside looking in, but they are on the outside looking in, I guess you can say, in terms of SEC championship race. But in terms of getting them in as a playoff contender, I should say. What are your thoughts about this job so far that Brian Kelly has done?
I mean, Brian Kelly is I guess you would say he's a winner. His resume, the winning that he did at Notre Dame. Um, this was the game I feel like if you're an LSU fan, you've been waiting to see from this team.
Mm-hmm.
You would have loved to have seen them beat Ole Miss more soundly, but Ole Miss LSU it is what it is. I mean, yeah, you're happy to just get on by with the win. This going on the road, beating an Arkansas team that is feeling good, fresh off of whooping on Tennessee, um, and you come into Fayetteville and you put your foot down. No pun intended. You laid a boot to Arkansas, and you beat them soundly by 24 points. The running game was very key and pivotal for LSU. Um, you didn't leave the game in Nuss's hands. He just had to throw the ball around, didn't have to make too many plays.
Mm-hmm.
But they have something with Durham. Durham is emerging for LSU
Yeah.
as their running back, not only for this season, but for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Tough runner, very good athlete, refuses to be tackled at the first point of contact when he gets hit first. He's always breaking the first tackle. That's the guy you want to lean on. And I think LSU has figured out we're going to win games, and it might not be sexy. It ain't going to be the Jaden Daniels way of last year with Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors of spreading the ball around, going deep and going crazy. It ain't going to be the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson kind of way, but we're just going to find ways to win. And with the season playing out like it is,
That's the best way
that's
to
not a
do it.
bad strategy. That's not something bad to lean on.
It's
Just
really
find a way
not.
to win.
It's really not. Oh man, no, you're absolutely right, Chris. I mean, we're seeing it real time. Like this LSU team, they find ways to win. I mean, we look back at that Ole Miss game. What a slog of a game that was up until overtime and late in the fourth quarter. But they found ways to win that ball game, and it wasn't pretty. So
South Carolina.
South Carolina, it wasn't pretty in that game. I mean, we should have saw it then. We should have saw signs then. So yeah, this game was no different. I mean, you finding different guys to help you win ball games. Hey, that if it helps you win, hey, you do what you can do to make it happen. But Caden Durham definitely has emerged as their premier back for the Tigers. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does throughout the rest of the season for LSU. But overall, I think they've kind of found lightning in a bottle right now, Chris.
Yeah, because he's a true. I want to say he's a freshman.
Yeah.
Caden Durham. Yeah. So it's nice to get one of your young guys to blossom and pop out the way he has as being a true freshman. So
Right.
yeah, no, it's shout out to LSU because the reason we weren't so high on them is because they haven't looked good, but they just been winning. But clearly, everybody doesn't look good. So, credit to LSU just winning.
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, outside of that loss at the beginning of the season against USC, now it looks like a bad loss. Now, if you're a Tigers fan, boy, USC is sticking up the field. But that's either here nor there. Yeah, man, they've really found their way to win a lot of these ball games now, and yeah, I think it's definitely helping them throughout the rest of the season, or it has an opportunity for them to finish the season strong. I should say, with finding a lot of these guys that are stepping up to the plate and helping the team to win. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens throughout the rest of the season. Let's look at LSU's remaining schedule. They have a game at College Station this coming Saturday. Ooh. That's going to be a really good game, Chris. We're going to definitely talk about that on Friday's show. That's another premier game in the SEC.
That's going to be a battle. Keep that game far, far away from your parlay.
Oh my gosh! And then you got the game against LSU. Against Alabama. So at Florida,
at the Swamp.
Yep, at the Swamp. I mean, Florida's starting to play a little bit better now, Chris. So we'll see what happens with that. And then at home against Vanderbilt, which should be fun. And at home against Oklahoma as well, which should be fun for LSU, because I don't think by that time that game happens, Oklahoma's not going to have any offense to show for it, and they don't have any right now.
Will Venables click? I just want to see what Oklahoma is looking like, what the rest of their schedule looks like.
Let's see.
Just we're going off on a tangent real quick, just very shortly. But is he going to survive? Will Venables survive this year?
I'll say this: if they lose to Ole Miss, which is kind of highly likely. After what we saw this past Saturday against South Carolina, I wouldn't be surprised that the OU boosters let go of him after that Ole Miss game. If they don't win that game, he's probably out.
Look at the schedule: at Ole Miss, at Missouri, home against Bama, at LSU.
That's kind of like murder is wrong.
That's tough. That's really, really tough.
I mean, anything can happen, but gosh.
Anything can happen, but the way they have been looking, you're sitting at 4-3. You got to win one of those games to be bowl eligible.
you're probably going to, you know what I'm saying, you should beat Maine. You got to beat one of those 4 ranked teams
Mm-hmm.
for bowl eligibility. Is this not year 3 under Venables? Is this
Yeah,
year 2 or 3?
I
I'm
think
out.
it's year 3. Let me see.
I'm not sure exactly if this is year 2 or 3. I want to say it's year 3.
So he's been there since 2022.
Okay. Okay. So yeah. So yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it was like his third year.
third year and you're not bowl eligible at Oklahoma. If that's how this plays out, I don't think you see year 4, my brother. You know, Oklahoma is a very prideful program, rich and full of tradition. The house Bob Stoops built, you know, that ain't gonna cut it.
I don't think so either. Question is who's gonna take a spot? I mean, this is a weird year already, but I
I
can't
know
really
one
tell
guy who
you.
might.
Lay him on.
You know, you know who.
Oh no! Look at this point. At this point, man, with the way Florida is starting to kind of, get on the ground running with some things now. Man, I'm starting to feel like Billy Napier might have another year on him. He might have another year, but when you Brett Venables, you might not have another year.
Hey,
You might
you
not.
might not. You might you might see Lane Kiffin making a move to Oklahoma here pretty soon for Norman if things keep playing out the way they are.
Oh no. Oh man. Well, you heard it here, folks. Lane Kiffin
Hey,
to Norman.
hey, it might happen. I mean, look, it's on brand for them to have an offensive guy in there. The last time they had success was with an offensive guy who is
Mm-hmm.
now currently coaching at USC,
Yeah.
Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
You know, Lane Kiffin does give off some Lincoln Riley vibes with the offenses you typically see
Yeah.
Lane Kiffin have. Not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily this year, which is crazy, but typically, you get the production from the offense from him. But we'll see, Just a little nugget, just just trying to read the tea leaves. It isn't looking good out there in Norman.
No, it's not. It isn't, and I think bringing in Venerables another year in this world of NIL now, and we see how it works now, Chris, in full time. Yeah, I think it's probably time to cut ties with Brent Venables if things aren't working. I mean, we always don't, wish, people to lose their jobs, but this is college football, and it has turned into the "what have you done for me lately" sort of sport when it comes down to resumes. So yeah, man, I think if you're Oklahoma, you're probably thinking about that.
Yeah, yeah, yes, you are. I'm sure they're having discussions this morning between some people in the circle.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, but it has been looking good for OU, especially after this past weekend's loss against South Carolina, which was just brutal. I don't wish that for anybody. Even for a team like OU that has historically had great teams. I mean, man, that was a rough outing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man. But yeah, Chris. Anything else you want to add to the LSU Arkansas game? I mean, maybe we had the pie in the sky outlook for the Razorbacks, and maybe we were wearing those rose colored glasses a little bit on
Those
what the Razorbacks could do, but wasn't a good outing.
Yeah, that and LSU's just. I think LSU's better than what we were seeing. We were seeing what they weren't doing and how they were just escaping, but in a sense, they've won all these games in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
They just know how to win. It
Mm-hmm.
looks like they really have learned from that USC game, and so yeah, I really think that's what's kind of going on. It's just in a season where teams are very even and there's a lot of parity. It's important to know how to win, to find ways to win, and LSU has been tested in all these different ways of pulling pulling out games, and so now that they are finding an identity and who they are, and they know they can win any kind of game, this team is wide open and opportunities available for them to continue to rise and level up because at the end of the day, it is LSU. They do have some players on that roster.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean they they found him in Durham, so
Yes, they have. He's that guy.
yeah, he's definitely the guy that they need. Especially after having the injury on Emory
Hmm.
earlier in the season. So yeah, it's great to see guys like Caden Durham, rise to the occasion and step up for this offense for LSU.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, man. Anything else you want to add to this game before we move on to the rest of the top 25?
Nope. Keep it. We can keep it rolling.
All right, all right. Well, now, folks, I'm about to head into the rest of the top 25 for your week 8 of the college football season. So I'll start off with Oregon knocked out Purdue. What else is new? 35-0. Oregon is now 7-0. Chris, riding high. So yeah, and that game was on Friday, and we also had another game on Friday, which was a wild ending, Chris. So number 13 BYU hosted Oklahoma State, beat Oklahoma State 38-35, late game touchdown. A
Hmm.
wild ending indeed, but yeah, hey, Jake Retzlaff and company, continue to do big things this season for the BYU Cougars.
Yes. Yes. The Cougs. They were due for a game where they had to find a way, and boy, did they were tested by Oklahoma State. Coach Gundy and his team, they have a lot of pride, and it has been a good season for the Cowboys. But they definitely put on their best to pull off the upset. Who'd have thought that in August we'd be saying Oklahoma State beating BYU would be the upset. Um,
I know I would have to. I would have been talking
but
about Alec Gordon and everything. Just
yeah,
what
right,
a waste of a season, Chris. What a waste.
exactly. But BYU, man, hey, just staying composed, found a way to win, and I'm all aboard the BYU Express.
Me too.
They uh, in a season where teams, are like it's wide open. You know what you're going to get from BYU. They're going to play sound football, and we got to see here that they know how to find a way to win.
They do.
They made it happen, and so this was the kind of test that they needed. They needed a game like this.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody needs a game like that, during the season, and this is a big win for them. Continue to keep the momentum going, and another Big 12 victory, 4-0 in the conference, right there in the mix to win the Big 12.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, man, it's between BYU, Colorado, starting to kind of come into their own. You got Iowa State. It's wide open Big 12, Chris.
America's Conference, Kory. Big 12 football. It's wide open. Ain't no telling who's going to win the league. And we're almost into November, and we still have no idea who's going to win the league.
I wouldn't have it any other way. Oh man, but great win, great victory for BYU, and we'll see what happens with them for the rest of the season. So, number 14, Texas A&M. Chris goes to Starkville, survives 34-24. A&M is now 6-1 for the season, and now they have a big game against LSU coming up. What were your thoughts about this game?
Look, good win for A&M. Tough road test. Tough battle against a very underrated Mississippi State team that's continuing, despite what the record says, to improve and get better and better. I feel like Michael Van Buren, he's a star in the making. Don't let the record of Mississippi State fool you people. If you watch Mississippi State this month, you have seen just how much improved this offense has been under Michael Van Buren than where it was at the beginning of the season. And I'm tempted to say if you swap Van Buren out with Nico Iamaleava and had him quarterbacking at Tennessee, we might be talking about Tennessee being the best team in the nation. Truthfully.
Yeah.
Like, man, Van Buren has had a better October than most quarterbacks in the SEC, and I would even argue he's had the best October of all the quarterbacks in the SEC. It sounds crazy. I know it does. But he's leading all SEC quarterbacks in touchdowns this month with 7. And Nico Iamaleava has had 1. Mm-hmm. That's correct. He's had 1. Michael Van Buren is the real deal. Mississippi State is in good hands with him as their quarterback going forward. And everybody who plays Mississippi State on their schedule the rest of the season is on upset alert. This team is scary, and there's a reason they only lost to A&M by 10.
Yeah. Like, good luck. If you want to try to have a shootout against this team, good luck. Because if that's what you want to do, they want to do that too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, man. We'll definitely see what happens with the Bulldogs for the rest of the season. But for the Aggies, a good win, showcasing Mike Elko is there as the head coach of the Aggies. And,
if it was the other guy there, State would have won the game.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If Jimbo was there, yeah. State would have found a way to win that one.
Yeah.
But not under Coach Elko.
Like those late, halftime adjustments definitely were key for the Aggies. So yeah, man. Yeah, a great win for the Aggies. I'll go through a quick blitz, Chris, and then we'll get ready to wrap up with our Chiefs of the Week. Iowa State, number 9, Iowa State defeated UCF late 38-35. Rocco Beck and company are still riding high. So we'll see what happens with the Cyclones going forward in the Big 12. So
talking about finding a way to win, Kory, did you see? UCF had it.
Yeah.
The pick 6.
They did.
It wasn't a pick 6. He dropped the ball before crossing into the end zone. Oh, boy. Iowa State very well could have been on the list of a team knocked off.
Yeah. They were close. They were close, but they survived. So, it's good to see a team like Iowa State that's, they too have had, like these close games, of course, with people trying to, give their best. But shout out to the Cyclones. They've been fighting tooth and nail with teams.
Yes, they have.
So, yeah. Clemson, number 10, Clemson hosted Virginia. 48-31 was the score. Clemson's still riding high, Chris, trying to make a name for themselves in the ACC conference. So, shout out to Cade Klubnik and Phil Maffa and all of those guys. They're still working hard right now after that loss against Georgia in the beginning of the season.
Yeah, Clemson still trying to put hands and feet on people. Virginia put up a good fight, though. They tried to storm back in the fourth quarter, but ultimately Clemson won by 18. But yeah, shout out to the Tigers taking care of business.
Exactly. Notre Dame, number 12, Notre Dame defeats Georgia Tech 31-13. Number 16, Indiana, Chris, slaps around Dylan Raiola and the Nebraska Cornhuskers 56-7. Indiana now has a big game potentially in the Big Ten against the Ohio State Buckeyes. Chris, who knew we were going to talk about the Hoosiers and the Buckeyes going toe-to-toe with one another in the Big Ten?
Sounds like a big noon kickoff game to me. This is shout out to the Hoosiers. 56-7. It wasn't even close. Nebraska didn't have a chance. So Indiana is out here, and they are putting up points.
Yeah,
you don't normally say that about Big Ten teams. They are putting up points.
I know that is crazy. It's crazy, but man, shout out to Indiana. Like they coming in mad with against teams right now. So shout out to them so far this season. Big game against Ohio State. So number 17, Kansas State took on West Virginia. 45-18 was the score of this game. Avery Johnson, 19 for 29, 298 yards, 3 touchdowns. Kansas State still riding high in the Big 12, showcasing why they're one of the teams that should win that conference. So we'll see what happens with that. Number 19, Missouri, Chris, took on Auburn. 21-17 was your score. Missouri won that game in a game that they could have very well lost.
Yeah, I don't know if Missouri won that one or if Auburn lost it. Boy, that's that's tough, man, because Cook went to the hospital. They needed their starting quarterback to come back from the hospital for them to win this one. The man just went to the hospital, Kory, came back in the fourth quarter, and they won.
That's crazy. That's insane. Look, what a weird year Missouri themselves are having so far. They're finding ways to win, even when maybe they shouldn't win some of these games. So
yes, they are. Yes, they are. That's another one of them, boy. Oh man.
So yeah, man. We'll see what happens with the Missouri Tigers later on in the season. So number 21, SMU beats Stanford 40-10. Illinois now 6-1 on the season, Chris. They beat Michigan 21-7. Michigan looking terrible more and more as the weeks progress. So just terrible for Sharon Moore and squad.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Sheesh, man. It's not the year for Michigan fans. And then Illinois, we said it, Luke Altmaier, keeping the great season going, handling business with the old school helmets on their heads.
I love those helmets.
Yeah, those helmets were fire. It's a big win for the Illini.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll end off the top 25, Chris, with our leading men, Army and Navy, getting the big wins over the weekend. Army beat East Carolina 45-28. Army is now 7-0. So shout out to Army The Black Knights getting the W. And also, our Naval Academy defeated Charlotte 51-17. Navy's now 6-0, Chris. So shout out to our nation leading men still slapping around some of these teams in the FBS.
They are beating up teams badly. Badly. I mean,
Make it look easy.
It is not pretty at all. None of these games are close. You do not want to run up against our academy schools,
No.
whether it's Navy or the Army.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, man, big wins for both of these teams. I can't wait. This should be one heck of an Army Navy game once we get to the end of the season. So, I can't wait. But yeah, man, that was our top 25, Chris. And before we end today's show, we have our Chiefs of the Week. Chris, I'm going to let you go ahead and showcase us who was your Chief of the Week.
So, this was a week where we had a lot of different, a lot going on. We had some big high profile games on the road. Some teams looking to try to make some names and establish themselves and let people know, hey, we still legit now. Don't worry about us. We got guys here, and one of those teams, the LSU Tigers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, make my Chief of the Week, Caden Durham. We spoke about him, a few minutes ago, and then the game he had. So he had 21 carries, 101 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. He also caught a pass for 7 yards. True freshman, establishing himself in that backfield, establishing himself as the guy. And honestly, I look to him to be the identity of this LSU football team. LSU's going to run the ball. They've been passing the ball over the years. I think this is a team that's going to be a little more ball control, have a little more touch of that Notre Dame, that Brian Kelly ground and pound to them going forward. And Hayden Durham is the player they trust in. He's talented. He's my Chief of the Week.
Nice. Yeah, man. What a heck of a performance by Durham. He's going to be very much needed for the Tigers in this final stretch throughout the regular season. But yeah, a great performance by Caden Durham in that big win over the Razorbacks. So yeah. Chris, I think I'm going to stay in the same position as you at the running back position. My Chief of the Week goes to none other than Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee. 26 carries, Chris, 139 yards with 2 touchdowns. Really helping Tennessee win that ball game overall. I mean, he showcases why he's one of the best running backs in the SEC, but the country overall. So a big win for Dylan Sampson and the Tennessee Volunteers. And yeah, I think that's it's definitely why I'm putting him as my Chief of the Week for Week 8.
Yeah. He had a couple touchdowns in the game. Had a couple plays where he broke free, got loose in that second half to spark the offense. Nico's still struggling, but as he works through his struggles being a young quarterback, it helps a lot to have a guy like Dylan Sampson to hand the ball off to. So yeah, definitely credit to him for the game he had and helping Rocky Top find a way to get the win.
Exactly, man. So yeah, man. Overall, great picks. It was a really interesting and fun Week 8. And now we're on to Week 9 of the college football season. So I know we had mentioned the game between A&M and LSU. That game should be fun. Big game we're going to be talking about later on this week. So, yeah.
That game, we will see depending on, of course, LSU has to get through that game first, but it could potentially go a long way in determining the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
If one of those teams make an appearance in the SEC championship game, that game will be a determining factor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't wait to watch that game. Should be a fun one. Missouri at Alabama. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if Alabama has a little bit left of life in them.
If they lose to this Missouri team, this is not a really good Missouri team. They have not been impressive at all.
No, they haven't.
If Alabama loses to this bunch, them people, boy, it's gonna be bad vibes in Tuscaloosa, boy. You might not want to go outside.
Yeah. No, you're right. You are right, man. So yeah, this is gonna be an interesting ball game. Texas has to go to Nashville, take on a feisty, scrappy
another top team coming into
Vanderbilt
Stadium.
Yeah. So hey, man, I can't wait to watch that game. It should be fun. Should be fun.
That's what Texas fans are telling themselves. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be all right.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about it Friday, but Quinn better figure some things out before they play Vandy.
Nah, I agree with you. I agree with you. So yeah, man, it's gonna be an interesting week 9. But we'll definitely be here talking about it on our Friday show. So be sure to tune in to that, y'all. But outros, Chris. Before we head out of here, let the good people know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, you can find me on X at Chris_Bolton_12 and on Instagram at Chris.Bolton_. Holla at your boy.
Awesome. And yeah, you can find me on X as well at Listen to KSW, all one handle. I'm on there talking college football. And yeah, just catch me on there. But yeah, overall, y'all, we appreciate you guys listening to the show. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to the show because it definitely helps us know what we're doing and how we can improve the show for the future for you all. So as always, we very much appreciate you guys' support. But until next time, I'm Kory Willis. He's Chris Bolton. You are listening to the Breakdown Sportscast. We'll catch y'all later. Peace.